I'll mention before I get started here, this is going to be a huge pain. I don't have all my canning supplies with me. A lot of those are at the house instead of here at the apartment. So I'm going to be pulling the jars out with this waterproof oven mitt instead of the actual jar lifter, which makes life so much easier. So I will only show you 1 or 2 jars, then we'll skip the rest. Alright, the jars are in the canner, filled with hot water. It's been going for a while, it's probably up to about 180 or so. So we'll dump that water into the canner, set the jar over here for filling, fill it up. Leave your proper amount of headspace. Get some of the hot water that I have reserved. Fill it. Oops, it's making a mess. Again, the right canning supplies. My funnel is at my house instead of my apartment. So then we'll put a tool down there to get all the air bubbles out. Here's a bubble right here. I don't know if you can see it. Any bubbles are likely to cause a burping action. So when that happens, you'll get a big burp and any fat will come out of the jar and interfere with the sealing. And you saw I got some chicken on there, so we wipe down the rim to make sure it's nice and clean. Any contaminants will make it where the lids don't make a good seal. Your lids need to be simmering in some about 180 degree water. That's just barely simmering. That gets the compound gummy. Get your rings. I preheat mine. That way they expand thermally, so that when I put them on the right, just finger tight. That way they stay nice and tight and don't loosen up too much. They will loosen up some. And repeat till your chicken's gone. I've got more than this, so it'll be just a moment. So just a second ago, I had dumped out all the water and showed me adding the chicken. If you leave some water in here, this is probably a little bit too much. We'll dump a little bit more out. But if you leave some water in there and then add the chicken to the water, or broth as you may choose, it'll actually make it so there's fewer bubbles in there. And that'll just make your life easier. The fewer bubbles you start with, the fewer you have to worry about getting out. And if you miss any, you're less likely to miss some too. So this time we'll add it in, and that's not quite packed enough. I'm going to dump this water down the sink so I don't contaminate my other water with little floaty bits. You don't have to fill them all the way full of meat. You can, but you do need to fill them to the proper headspace with liquid. So you can fill it half full of meat and then all the way the rest of the way with water, as long as you get the right amount of liquid. So let's look in there. And I actually don't see any bubbles this time, so that's definitely the way to go. Alright, you'll notice I'm dressed a little different. I took a couple days as I was trying to find the resources and sites that I could reference on where I got my method from. Everything I was finding was a .edu or .gov domain. I wasn't just going to give you some random blog. So I was only looking on educational and government websites, USDA and FDA and all. Well, I guess not FDA probably, but all those people that do that type of thing. And everything said, do not add water. A couple of references I found said that it's unnecessary and the chicken will make its own broth, but some of them were very adamant. Do not add water, capitalized, exclamation point. And I didn't want to give out an unsafe recipe. I didn't believe that I just made this up, because that could be unsafe and I wouldn't have done that. And ultimately what I found is the current era of Ball Blue books, which is what I have, mine's about 2008 or so, is what references adding the hot water on the raw pack. Everything else I saw said you add hot water to the hot pack, the cooked chicken method, but it said do not add water on the raw pack. Well, the Ball Blue book says to add that you can add water to the raw pack, and that's what I did here. I believe it to be safe, but you can bet that I will in the future not be adding water, because it's a pain, and it is safe to not add water, because that's all of the current advice on the .edu and .gov information that I can find. So I'm pretty confident that my stuff's safe. This video is valid, but you can save yourself a lot of effort and a little bit of time by not adding the hot liquid. So just omit that step if you got there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the rest of the video. So after I finished the first layer, I turned the stove up to all the way up because I'm no longer working in that water. My jars are over on the other one that I was at. And so you can see Then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 jars. And if they were skinny, I could probably get a 10th one in that gap in the middle. But it's not, so. Go into a second layer. Put a separator in. Put the other jars back, which I just took out just now to show you. And we'll get it going. So just like in my beaten canning video, we put the lid on. And this will need to be venting heavily, where this is a constant stream of steam for 10 minutes. Time doesn't start until there's no more air. I'll show you in just, well, for you in a second, where it's steam, and then the point at which it'll be okay to start the timer. Alright, the steam is coming out of the vent hole pretty steadily at this point, so I can start my 10-minute timer to complete the venting. Only now do I start the 10-minute timer, even though there's been steam coming out for a couple minutes now. I can probably turn the heat down just a little bit, because you can see how vigorously it's coming out of the safety area right there. But yeah, so well, in fact it just locked. So I'll turn it down just a little bit and start the timer. Alright, the world's worst cooking timer has said that the 10 minutes is up, so put the weight on, and now your time starts. 75 minutes for pints, 90 minutes for quarts. Starts when it starts wobbling consistently. One wobble doesn't count, but once it's consistently wobbling, start your timer for your 75 minutes. By the way, that one beep is all I ever get. It doesn't beep again, and you can hardly hear it. That's why I call it the world's worst. You can see we're quickly gaining some pressure. Maybe you can. Alright, we're already up to 3 psi, but it'll take some time before it's actually all the way up to 15. So, be back in a moment, and the current time is 6:34. We'll see how long it takes to get up to pressure. Alright, the wiggler just started wiggling, so we'll start the timer for 75 minutes. And turn your heat off, and just let it come slowly to a cool. Do not do anything to speed it up, otherwise your cans will flash boil and your contents will be spewed, and then you likely won't get good seals.